Hello everyone, and welcome to the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Here with your hosts, Jacob Smedley,
Sam Beth,
Justin Reedhammer,
and Nathan Romanoff.
Our topics today include the MLB season is back. The regular season started a few days ago, and Sam will give us a breakdown on the first few games of the season. Then, the NFL offseason is underway. Some free agents are on the move. Justin will give us players that are in new places. And we'll wrap it up with an NHL update, the standings as the end of the season approaches. Now, here's Sam Betts with the MLB start of the season. Take it away, Sam.
And Jake, this is probably my favorite season of the year. MLB baseball is getting back in place, right coming off of spring training. Some of the other sports are starting to end currently, like basketball is getting there toward the end. NHL, I know, is getting toward the end, but baseball is in full starting mode, and I'm so happy to see it back. We're just going to cover a couple of games here and there that I thought were pretty interesting to see. We're going to start off with April 1st, which was opening day. Opening day, there's nothing like it. I know Justin might not agree with me, but that's okay. It has a special place here in my heart.
You know me so well, Sam. You know me so well.
Anyways, we're going to get started with the Arizona Diamondbacks against the San Diego Padres. Now, this was a pretty high-scoring game as the San Diego Padres won 8-7. It was very close, but Slam Diego came on top, and I really like this team. I think a lot of people really like this team. Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, those guys didn't really play too well. They didn't really have a lot of offensive power in this game. However, Eric Hosmer, 3 for 4, had a home run and 3 RBIs. I mean, he's a pretty decent player himself, former World Series champion with the Kansas City Royals. You have Victor Caratini, who came over from the Cubs with Yu Darvish, who actually pitched in this game. He went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. Will Myers also had a home run in this game, and Yu Darvish didn't really pitch that well. He went 4 2/3 of an innings with 4 earned runs and 6 strikeouts. Obviously, the offense is going to be very good. Obviously, the pitching rotation we're suspecting is going to be pretty good with Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, but we're just going to have to see. The Arizona Diamondbacks, obviously, they put up a good fight. Our buddy Tim LaCastro, Jake, I think you
Tim LaCastro,
yeah. One of the fastest players in the MLB, came in to pinch hit and actually hit a home run and had 2 RBIs. Asdrubal Cabrera had a home run with 3 RBIs, and Ketel Marte had a really nice day, 4 for 5, 1 home run, 1 RBI. Madison Bumgarner, again, pitching not very great, 4 innings, 6 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. The bad pitching is going to be a common theme for some of these games, so just prepare yourself. But we're also going to have some
The offenses weren't fooling around, Sam, on April Fool's Day, you could say.
That is true. I will definitely give you that. We're going to go next to, obviously these teams are not known for necessarily being the greatest, but this was a very high-scoring game, and a lot of people like to see these 10, 15-score games. The Kansas City Royals beat the Texas Rangers 14-10. You had Whit Merrifield going 3 for 5, 1 home run, 2 RBIs. He's probably, next to Salvador Perez, probably the captain of this team, as Salvador Perez did actually get a contract extension, but Salvador Perez has been hurt recently in the past couple of years, hasn't really performed as much, so Whit Merrifield is definitely taking a big leadership role on this team. Jorge Soler, the beast himself, 2 for 2, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, and 2 base on balls. You definitely don't want to pitch to this guy because he will slam the ball out of the park. Kyle Isbell in his debut, 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs. I mean, this kid was on fire. As soon as he came up to the plate, got a couple singles. I think he also had a double too. And Michael Taylor, 3 for 5, 1 home run, 3 RBIs. So the batting's been great. Unfortunately, Brad Keller went 1 1/3 inning. I believe he gave up maybe somewhere around 6 to 7 runs. The best pitcher was Carlos Hernandez, who came in relief, pitched 3 innings, had 2 earned runs and 5 strikeouts. For the Texas Rangers, Joey Gallo, 2 home runs, actually 2 RBIs, excuse me, but he had 3 base on balls. Again, he's another guy you do not want to pitch to. Eli White came in 2 for 4, 2 RBIs. The pitchers, I don't even want to mention them because the pitchers for the Texas Rangers were awful. I will
close your ears, pitching fans out there.
Kyle Gibson, the starter, pitched a third of an inning, Didn't even make it out of the first inning. He had 5 earned runs and a strikeout. Yeah,
Oh
Jake's
my god!
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
The pitching's been
gosh!
awful.
What is this?
But there have been
What
some
is
good
this?
there have been some good pitching bouts. We'll get to them. Actually, this next game from April 2nd is going to be a better one. But oh my, if you look at some of the ERAs for these pitchers, just don't, because your corneas are going to be burned out of your eyes. Anyways, April 2nd here, we're getting down to the second day of baseball. We have the Los Angeles Dodgers against the Colorado Rockies. The LA Dodgers won 11-6. Again, a lot of high-scoring games, and I think a lot of fans are going to like this. A lot of them don't like the pitching duels. I personally like a good pitching duel every once in a while.
Yeah, me and you, Sam. Come on now. We're old school. We love the toe-to-toe aces going into the 7th inning. I know tonight's game, but we're going to be Saturday's game for the viewer when this comes out, between the Twins and the Brewers. No hit into the 6th. Like, that's what I live for, man. These pitchers going out, striking out double digits. Like, that is a great game to me. Not this high-scoring nonsense like this, round where everyone gets a single. What is this?
Yeah, I know, Jake. I mean, every once in a while I like those kind of games, but I just like seeing the chess match of the pitchers. Like, who's going to be the first to give up? Who's going to be the first to maybe like give up a base on ball? Who's going to be the first to
leave a fastball over the middle of the plate?
I know, and any sort of little thing can make a whole lot of difference. So I just love watching stuff like that. But anyways, we did have that a little bit. We're going to talk about the hitters first, because man, these Dodgers batters were on fire. Kyle Seager, 3 for 5 with 1 RBI. Justin Turner, 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Will Smith, 3 for 4, 2 RBIs. Gavin Lux, 2 for 5 with a triple and an RBI. And then we have Trevor Bauer, who made his Dodgers debut on this April 2nd game. Had no hitter through about 6 innings, and then ended up giving up 4 earned runs, but he did have 10 strikeouts. So, I mean,
they're just too good, Sam. I mean, we talked about this before when we were talking about Major League Baseball, the off season that they've had. They're just too good. I mean, you overlook, maybe you didn't mention it, but the first game they fell, they had a base running issue there. They're too good. They have too much talent at every position, starting rotation, relief. They're going to have a few slip-up games here and there, but they're almost a lock to win 100 games, right?
I was just about to say that they could definitely win 100 games and maybe even repeat as World Series champions. Obviously, we're only into about the third day of baseball, and there's 162 games left, but
yeah,
it's baseball. Anything can happen, and I definitely think this Dodgers team could repeat. If we go to the Colorado side, we got Charlie Blackmon, who went 1 for 4 with a home run. Actually, there were 4 home runs hit by the Colorado Rockies. Ryan McMahon went 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs. Dom Nunez went 1 for 4 with a home run, and Sam Hilliard went 1 for 3 with a home run. Antonio Senzatella, again, not a good pitching outing. 3 1/3 innings with 7 earned runs and 2 strikeouts. Yeah, I know, Jake.
7
Yeah,
earned?
your
Are you
ears are
kidding
bleeding.
me? What is this?
It's very bad. But okay. But this is actually a good pitch. There's some actually good pitching here. I know. We have the Orioles and the Red Sox. Orioles won 3-0.
Wait, you mentioned the Orioles and the Red Sox in the same sentence as good pitching, Sam? What is this?
Well, we'll get to that. We had We had Ryan Mountcastle, who went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, and we had Santander there, who went 1 for 4 with 1 RBI, and then we had John Means, went 7 innings, 0 earned runs. I think he only gave up 2 hits. I think he actually only gave up 1 hit. He gave up 1 hit with 5 strikeouts. I mean, that's a pretty good outing to me. And John Means
taking it from the MLB comments. He means business, Sam. John Means, what a performance! What a performance he had there.
Also, he's a former All-Star, and I definitely think he could carry this Orioles rotation. I don't know if they could carry him that far, but he could definitely be one of the few bright spots on this Orioles team. Also, I'd like to mention that Trey Mancini, coming back from colon cancer, went 1 for 3 with also a walk as well. I'm really excited to see Trey Mancini back. I'd say he's one of my favorite players to watch. Just a very electrifying young player, and just glad to have him back after having his bout of colon cancer, being able to be cleared of that.
Yeah, great moment there. Him and Xander Bogaerts at first base shared a moment in the first game. That was great to see him back, as you said.
Yeah. Red Sox, Kike Hernandez went 1 for 4. JD Martinez 1 for 4. Those were the only two to get hits for this team. And then Nathan Eovaldi, 5 1/3 innings, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. Not a bad outing, but the bullpen didn't really help him there either.
That's going to be the problem for the Red Sox, Sam. I mean, you look at it, they have a good lineup. You mentioned the names, Devert, Bogarts, Martinez. They added Kike Hernandez in the offseason and Marwin Gonzalez. They're going to put up runs when they can. It's just going to be the starting pitching that they'll have. Of course, Chris Sale is hurt, and the relief pitching. Outside of maybe Adam Ottavino, who they acquired from the Yankees, it's thin out there. So they're going to have to outscore teams to be able to win these games, and they just didn't in the first two.
Yeah, I know. They had the rookie Tanner Houck pitch today. I think he went 5 innings, had 8 strikeouts, but I mean they still lost to the Orioles, I believe 4-2. So it's all going to be about whether this offense can help this team score runs, and the pitching is just going to have to try to do its best to stop runs from happening against them. So it's going to be very interesting. I'd like to add an honorable mention from April 2nd. Yerman Mercedes, in his debut with the White Sox, went 5 for 5 with 4 RBIs. I mean, no home runs, just a couple doubles, a couple singles. But I mean, 5 for 5, that's pretty impressive for your debut there. So he definitely got a couple first game balls.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the talk around the White Sox was so much around Andrew Vaughn and the impact that he would make at the DH. But Mercedes, what a game for him. And I think the White Sox flying under the radar in terms of, I mean, not to kind of get off track, but in terms of prospects. And, you mentioned the Braves and the Rays kind of at the top of that. But the White Sox have a really good prospect pool of guys on the way, like Madrigal, who's already up, Mercedes, who showed a great deal of promise there in that game, and Andrew Vaughn, who's still yet to really make an impact for the big club, but great game for him against the Angels.
Definitely, and also with Michael Kopech coming back and pitching for the first time since 2018 after having Tommy John surgery. I mean, he can definitely easily throw over 100 miles multiple times, and also you got Crockett there too, who came up a little bit last season. 50% of his pitches were over 100 miles. So I mean, this team has the offense and the pitching to make a deep playoff run, and they almost did a little bit last season, but were taken out by the A's there. So I mean, they're definitely a very underrated team, I'd say, but I think they could definitely make an impact, and I'm really excited to see what this team has in store for us this season. When we move on to April 3rd, we're going to talk about our favorite little team here in the Philadelphia region. We have the Philadelphia Phillies against the Atlanta Braves. This is another good pitching outing for the Phillies here. We'll talk about that soon. The Phillies won 4-0. JT Realmuto went 2 for 4. Hoskins went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs, and then Zach Wheeler, the pitcher, went 2 for 3 with a double and 2 RBIs, created half of the offense for this Phillies team. And then he went back on the mound on the opposite side of the field and put on a show. Went 7 innings, gave up 0 runs. He only gave up 1 hit and had 10 strikeouts.
Let this sink in, Sam. Zach Wheeler, the Phillies pitcher, had more hits than the entire Braves team. That Braves team went to the NLCS last year. Just something to think about, Sam.
Yeah, and I mean, they had a healthy team with Ronald Acuna Jr. and Freddie Freeman, and they struggled this game. The only person to get a hit for the Atlanta Braves was Travis d'Arnaud, the catcher, who went 1 for 3. And I think it was only a single. I remember watching that hit. And then Charlie Morton on the other side for the Braves went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs and 5 strikeouts. He was a former Phillies pitcher himself for a short time. But yeah, I mean, I'm really liking how the Phillies are 2-0 this season. Great start. I mean, I don't know about Bryce Harper's cleats, though. Those things look very unsafe and not very good for playing out in the field. But I mean, hey, he's a superstar. I guess he can do whatever he wants.
Safety, schmafety, Sam. It's all about the looks. The Philly fanatic, the emblem of the team. Those look sick in my eyes. What are you talking about?
I'm not saying
unsafe.
They don't look cool. They definitely look cool. I just don't know if they're safe for being in the field, but that's just my opinion. Anyways,
I mean, when you look at the Phillies, Sam, I mean, just to touch on their bullpen a little bit before we move on, I mean, knock on wood, knocking on it right now. I mean, Six innings now, scoreless to begin the season, and that was, I saw a stat for their first game against the Braves where it was like, I mean, they had one time the entire last season where they had, I think it was 3 1/3 scoreless innings in a tie game. One time, all of last year in a 60-game season, one time already this year in the first game of the season. So optimistic, perhaps, but we'll see moving forward.
Definitely, and I think they bolstered up this bullpen. I don't know if they bolstered it too much with Sam Coonrod, but Jose Alvarado looks to maybe be promising, and then also with Archie Bradley. I mean, Archie Bradley's been dominant. He was dominant as a starter. He's been dominant as a reliever and a closer. I think that he was a great addition to this team, and I think Hector Neris came in for a little bit and has been pitching pretty well. So this bullpen could turn itself around here. Again, knock on wood, but hopefully this bullpen cannot be the worst in baseball this year and definitely make a turnaround. We're going to get to the last game here. This is just going to be a very short segment for baseball. I know Justin's over there with a sigh of relief. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Reds were able to win this game 9-6. The Reds, Tucker Barnhart went 1 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs. Aristides Aquino, who did not get a lot of playing time last season, I was very disappointed about it because I love the Punisher. But he came in, went 1 for 2 with a home run, 1 RBI. Love to see that. Mike Moustakas, 2 for 4 with an RBI. Tyler Naquin, 1 for 2 with an RBI. And then Tyler Mahle got to start, pitched 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 9 strikeouts, which is pretty impressive. For the Cardinals, we had Paul DeJong, 2 for 3 with 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, and 2 base on balls. Got 2s across the board there. Nolan Arenado, the newly acquired third baseman for the Cardinals, went 2 for 5 with a home run, 2 RBIs. Adam Wainwright, again, very bad pitching. 2 2/3 innings, 6 earned runs, and a strikeout. However, this isn't the only thing that happened. That's not the only thing that happened in this game, as the benches cleared after Nick Castellanos slid into home plate against the pitcher Woodward for the Cardinals and kind of was stunting around a little bit there at home plate. Yadier Molina and Woodford, his name, did not like that. Kind of got in his face, and then he had Nolan Arenado charging him from third base trying to get some action. Obviously, the teammates and the umpires were able to kind of clear that up there, kind of separate them, but benches clear, and a lot of benches have been clearing for the Cincinnati Reds for a decent while, with going back to the Pirates a couple times. I mean, baseball fights are usually some of the best to watch, so we'll see kind of how the Cincinnati team kind of tries to wrangle in their team, or maybe even have more fights happen. I don't know. I just know I have a shirt of Amir Garrett trying to take on 7 Pirates players at one point. So that's all I have. I'm very excited for baseball to be back, and I'm excited just to see where the season takes us.
That will do it for the MLB section. Good job, as always, Sam. Justin saying his prayers over there. Speaking of Justin, moving on to NFL free agency. What's been going on, Justin?
Thank you, Jacob. Well, the great NFL shuffle has begun, boys. The free agency, full swing, and we're here to cover it. Basically tell you what's happened, what we think about it, and what it means for the teams in the future. So we'll dive right in here. We're going to start out with a few of the Buffalo Bills signings. We have, of course, I'm just going to go over the significant signings. They re-signed Matt Milano, their linebacker, for 4 years, $41.5 million. They signed Mitchell Trubisky, as you guys reminded me so many times, for 1 year, $2.5 million. And they also signed wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders from the Saints for just 1 year. I have to say I do like some of these moves here, but I want to pick your brains for a minute. What do you guys think about some of these moves?
Well, I like the Emmanuel Sanders signing. That's a good one, especially since they released, I believe, John Brown this past offseason as well. So that is a good move by the Bills. Boy, Mitch Trubisky, Justin, as Justin said, poke a little fun at him after that happened. Just the idea of Josh Allen potentially getting injured, having to sit the season out, and the starting quarterback for the Bills being Mitch Trubisky just makes me laugh. But Mike Milano, extending him, smart move by the Bills. So all in all, it's all right. Pretty good offseason.
Yeah, I mean, MVP? Are you serious? The Bills signing an MVP? That's insane. I mean, to get that kind of signing with that price, you gotta be kidding me. Brian Dable, I think he can work some magic with Mitchell, being that backup, fitting into Matt Barkley's role pretty nice there. Of course, we do not wish injuries, Nate. We wish Josh Allen.
And I was not wishing any injuries.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I know, get you there, but... Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky, good backup, I think, to Josh Allen. He'll fit in nicely there. Emmanuel Sanders, I think it's a good signing. Kind of a underwhelming, I think, year last year with the Saints in terms of his amount of catches, red zone targets and such. I think he kind of fits in right into what John Brown was doing, that kind of second, third option. Of course, behind Stephon Diggs, you have him, Cole Beasley as well, catching passes. And Matt Milano, a stalwart on that defense, a great tackler for the Bills. I think it was important that they at least either sign him or, again, another player like him to show up the middle, so it was nice that they brought him back. So good signings for the Bills, Justin, to run it back, as you would like to say.
Yeah, go farther is what I'd like to say. And
yeah.
So to me, these moves really show me that they're trying to build that championship team. They're trying to build that team that can take the extra step, and I like to see that.
Mitchell Trubisky really is that difference, don't you think? Puts them over the Chiefs, I'd say.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get to that point. All right, we'll move on then to the Dolphins here, who, I mean, they signed a few great guys, but I'm just going to go over some of the highlights here. They signed quarterback Jacob Brissett, which I think he'll be a very decent backup for Tua Tagovailoa, assuming that's what they go with as their starting quarterback. And they also signed wide receiver Will Fuller to a one-year deal, $10.6 million. So I like that move, honestly, for them, because that's not too expensive, and he's a very, very good receiver. I know that there was one game last year, I forget who had him, but I think it was you, Jacob. You traded him away, and then
it was Nate.
That was me. I traded him away.
Yeah.
You traded it to you, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was in that. It was in the Nick Chubb trade. I remember. I traded that to him. He gave me, I think it was Rodgers and Will Fuller.
Yeah.
One game went off and then got suspended the rest of the year. Yeah.
So it was okay with me for Will Fuller going, but Aaron Rodgers, that was a mistake.
That was the mistake.
That was the mistake.
At that point, you couldn't have predicted it, but I think it's a great signing for them. They really need to strengthen that receiver core. I think that was something that really held them back last season. I think Will Fuller, honestly, is a great fit in that offense.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there, Justin. Like you said, that's a great pickup for Tua being a young quarterback. Adding a weapon like Will Fuller is definitely going to help the Dolphins out. And, with their position currently in the upcoming draft and the trade that just occurred, they're still in the mix to potentially draft another great receiver like a Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. 3 great receivers who I'm sure at least 1 or 2 of those guys will still be there by the time the 6th pick rolls around, which is what the Dolphins are now at.
Yeah, I think those signings were good. Hey, like to hear you, unbiased Bills fan over there, giving some credit to the rival team. But yeah, it's a great pickup, Will Fuller. Like you mentioned, Justin, they needed someone other than Devontae Parker to really step up, and it just seemed like down the stretch of the season they didn't have that other guy. They didn't have another guy to really help him. Parker, of course, in and out of the lineup with injuries. So I think a good signing there, and Brissett, a veteran quarterback to help Tua along the way.
All right, now we'll move on then to the Patriots, guys, who I know I've been told the Patriots have had a great free agency, but I'm going to go over it for you guys, and I'll see what you guys think here, okay? They re-signed Cam Newton for a year, which didn't see coming, not going to lie, but they re-signed him for this year. They signed Lawrence Guy. I think that's a pretty good one. Kyle Van Noy, another great part of their defense. They signed Nelson Aguilar for a 2-year deal, $26 million. I'll get to what I think about that in a minute. And then they also signed tight end Hunter Henry, who I think personally that's probably the best move that they've made. I think that Hunter Henry is a great move for their offense, a great improvement, but now it's time for me to go a little hard on him because, come on, man, there were quarterbacks in free agency that they could have got, and they re-signed Cam Newton. I mean, you saw what he did last season. He wasn't very impressive. I'm just saying I don't like that move. But then Nelson Aguilar too. I mean, he's an okay receiver, but I don't think he's worth $13 million a year. Like, I think they spent too much for him, and they signed him for 2 years. So I don't know. I personally don't like that move, but I see you moving around there, Jacob. So I'm gonna go to you first. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I'm just with your take. Again, I'm not a huge Nelson Aguilar fan and his mishaps, of course. But I mean, seems like you're being a bit harsh right now. Re-signing Cam Newton. It was a COVID year. He had COVID. Yes, of course, you can't put the blame on the whole season. It was a struggle for him and the team as a whole. But I think they wanted to give him another chance, give him a chance in a full year to kind of prove himself. Is he truly back? He missed a few weeks, of course, with COVID. And, hey, maybe with Aguilar, maybe with Jonnu Smith, who I don't know if you mentioned or not, Hunter Henry, you said, maybe a few more weapons around him. It's a bit more productive offensively. Because it was rough pickings in terms of the weapons that they had around him as well. Maybe that might not be the total explanation for why he struggled passing the football, but you're being a bit harsh on the offensive side, if I do say so myself. That's all I was thinking there.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't like the price tag, especially on. I mean, Cam Newton, $13.6 million for 1 year. That's quite a bit. And I mean, for Nelson Aguilar, another $13 million a year, $26 million total. So it's just a lot of money that they spent on guys that they could have at least spent a little less on. I mean,
not to cut Nate off, but were you thinking of Jimmy G? What is this? Who do you think's out there? Who else has got to be better than
Mitchell Trubisky, maybe?
Oh, okay, yeah. You no. Got me. You got me there. MVP, yeah.
Yeah.
The MVP himself. But no, I agree with a lot of what Jake said. Again, last year, COVID year, Cam had a dip, definitely, after COVID. You can't put it all on that, as Jake said. But their offensive talent, I don't believe was necessarily there last year. I like the offensive moves they made this offseason. Nelson Aguilar, yeah, it might be a bit high, but I think it was a good signing. He had a good year last year in Oakland with the Raiders and Las Vegas Raiders, my bad. Hunter Henry, great signing at tight end. I feel like weapons like that are what, they might need to help a guy like Cam Newton out, better targets in the passing game. And, to address the quarterback situation, I don't feel like going out necessarily in free agency trying to get a quarterback would have been the right move for them. I feel like with their position in the draft, I feel like that's something that a guy like Bill Belichick would prefer to do, is go out and get a fresh, rookie quarterback in the draft and mold him and develop him, see what he likes. A guy like maybe Mac Jones, who they might scout, or a Trey Lance, depending on who's there and where they fall or if they trade up in the draft. So I feel like re-signing Cam Newton helps them in that situation where they can develop a young rookie quarterback, which I believe they'll take, and have a guy like Cam Newton who's experienced and who I still believe can play the game, start this season.
Yeah, and who knows, if things get bad with Cam, you could go to that rookie quarterback if things are still as rough as they were last year.
It's an interesting take for sure, and I mean, I see your point. And I guess then we'll go to, I'll just quickly touch up on the Steelers here, because I wanted to mention one signing that they had. They re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster for 1 year, $8 million. I didn't think that was going to happen. I'm not going to lie. I thought Juju was going somewhere else, but he re-signed. So, I don't know. Some of his attitude issues this year were a bit out there. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Was this a good signing for them, or should they have just let him go?
It's good for them that they were able to hold on to him. I agree with you. I feel like he definitely does not have the best attitude, or at least he didn't this past season. Definitely had some shenanigans that I don't think helped the team in the long run. And in all fairness, he turned down more money elsewhere in places like Baltimore, Philadelphia, to go back and sign with the Steelers. But again, and they're bringing back Ben Roethlisberger. And so I feel like with a guy like him, you're going to need more receiving targets. So I guess for the Steelers, that is a smart move in the end. I don't know if I necessarily like it. I don't know how long he's going to stay there. But it makes sense considering they re-signed Big Ben.
Yeah, I think it's a good signing for the Steelers. I personally thought that maybe the Steelers would be a bit more aggressive. I know there's still a bunch of time till to the draft and when we get close to training camp when that starts up. I thought, again, they would be more aggressive. We were talking about how they were kind of maybe a distant team in the J.J. Watt sweepstakes. I think, like, when you... They disappointed in the playoffs, to put it lightly, and they were a team that was in the mix with the Bills to be that team to face off against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I personally thought they were going to be a bit more aggressive for some of these free agent targets. I think it's good that they brought back Juju Smith-Schuster. Hopefully he matures a little bit, maybe. I mean, and he can help that locker room. But I thought they would maybe go out and get maybe another defensive piece or another offensive weapon in addition to Juju Smith-Schuster to help out the aging Ben Roethlisberger.
And to that point, especially since they lost Bud Dupree this offseason.
All right, we'll go on then. We'll go to a few of the Broncos signings here. We had the Broncos signing Kareem Jackson for 1 year, $5 million. Very good safety in Kareem Jackson. And they franchise tagged Justin Simmons, another excellent safety on their team. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that this safety tandem, they could be good this season.
Yeah, as a Broncos fan myself, I definitely like, bringing these guys back. I like the safety tandem. I think that it definitely will help the defense to have those guys. The Broncos have had their struggles, on the defensive side of the ball, and on the offense. I feel like solidifying the defense will definitely help out a bit more, and hopefully some of the young offensive talent will be able to break through this year. So, from Broncos' perspective, I like the move.
Yeah, I think that's a great move. I think that's what they needed to do. Kareem Jackson adding to, as Nate was mentioning, just a good young core there in the secondary. I remember, of course, Chris Harris and Aqib Talib and the mile-high defense that they had, and they're trying to build that again there with the Broncos, and I think this is a good start, re-signing those guys and setting them in a good place moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, always build up one side first and then work the other one. They're building that defense. All right, then we'll just quickly run over a few picks before we start to talk a few more. We got John Brown signed with the Raiders for a year, as we mentioned. Quentin Jefferson, he signed with the Raiders as well. Dak Prescott, he re-signed with the Cowboys for 4 years, $160 million. I didn't see that one coming, boys. I thought that he was gone after the injury, but they brought him back, and I think, honestly, a lot of that had to do with the season they had where they were like, we didn't really have a guy, so this year we need to get a guy. And I guess they just decided Dak was that guy.
Yeah, and I mean, good for Dak. He stuck it out. He ended up getting paid like he wanted to. After that terrible injury which ended his season this past year. If you really look at it, though, I feel like you see those first 4 or 5 games that Dak played in, he really was the spark for their offense. And nothing else, because after that you had Andy Dalton come in, and the Cowboys, they just couldn't do anything. And of course their defense was terrible as well, but I feel like re-signing Dak was a smart move for Dallas. I didn't necessarily see it coming in the way it did with that huge contract, but in the long run, if he could stay healthy, I think it's a good move for Dallas.
Yeah, I think it's a good move, and you touched on the record there, Nate, a little bit. And you can't even place most of that on Dak because they had a horrendous defense last year. They were giving up much more points than they were scoring with their high-powered offense. So you could account that for the 2-3 losses before he went down with injury. Yeah, you look at it, you could make the argument of the overpay when you look at the average annual value and what they probably could have paid him maybe earlier on in the process. But I think it's a move that they had to make, especially with the talent they have around him. He is a good quarterback. I hate to say it. I hate to face him. I hate the Eagles having to face him in that division time and time again. But it was a right move for the Cowboys. They have a good offense and are going to be a good team moving forward.
Yeah, I think it was a great move for them. They really solidified what many people call the most important position on the team, and I think that only good things can stem from it. And speaking of that position, we'll also see a few more of those signings here. Joe Flacco went to the Eagles for 1 year, $3.5 million. That'll be good for them, able to get a solid backup for Jalen Hurts. QB Ryan Fitzpatrick, my man Ryan Fitzmagic over there, signed with the football team for a year, $10 million, guys. They like the older quarterbacks apparently because they went from Alex Smith over to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I like this move honestly for the football team. I think he's a very decent quarterback. He can be a little inconsistent at times, but I like the move for them.
Yeah, I do too, Justin. He's older, as you mentioned, but last year you could argue was probably one of his best seasons statistically in the NFL. And he played well on the Dolphins. Obviously, they have Tua now. They were able to move on from him, but the football team bringing him in either I right now I view as a backup, but potentially as a starter, depending on how Heineke plays in this upcoming season. We'll see. So I like the move by the football team.
Yeah, what a quarterback room that is. Taylor Heineke going toe-to-toe with Tom Brady, and then the experienced guy, Ryan Fitzmagic, making plays that no one has ever seen before. What a great quarterback room that the football team has. And then going to the Eagles, Joe Flacco, who knows? He's going to be starting. They have as much quarterback controversy as any team ever. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a spot start here or there, but I think it's a good move for the Eagles to add in that veteran presence. New Jersey guy, had the jersey of him with the Eagles there. I think he can mentor Jalen Hurts even more to get him ready for the big stage. Down the line, of course.
Yeah, I do like both the moves there. I think that, especially Fitzpatrick, with like you said, that's the best backup QBs in the NFL right there, getting the first starting job. So we'll see what happens there. And speaking of best backup QB in the NFL, Andy Dalton went with the Bears for 1 year, $10 million. He's looking to try and take back a starting job. Allen Robinson was franchise tagged, as we see here. We'll move on then to running back Aaron Jones, who re-signed with the Packers. I think that was a great move for them. It was uncertain what was going to happen there. Aaron Jones, it looked like he was going to go, but at the last second, they solidified a deal, 4 years, $48 million. I think it was a great move by the Packers.
Yeah, that was a terrific move by the Packers, one they needed to get done. He's a vital part of that offense, especially with Aaron Rodgers in the passing game. You need to have that solid number one running back. And they do in Aaron Jones, who, you could argue is a top 5 back in the league at times, and he's played like it over the past couple seasons. So definitely deserved. Franchise tag Allen Robinson at the Bears. I like that move. Allen Robinson, a great receiver. If they didn't franchise tag him, I do feel that he would have went elsewhere in free agency. So this is probably the smartest move for the Bears.
Yeah, and looking at Andy Dalton with the Bears, that quarterback situation in Chicago. Will they ever have that elite quarterback? I know there's still the Russell Wilson rumors going around, but saw the picture of Andy Dalton with the QB1 from the Bears. Is it really come to that? They had that position in the draft, passed on Mahomes, passed on Watson. You get the MVP in Mitchell Trubisky. He signs with the Bills, and now you're stuck with Andy Dalton, who I guess performed good enough with the Cowboys, to earn a starting job on the Bears, who still have a good defense and are going to compete with a good defense. They did franchise tag Allen Robinson, but kind of like the Steelers and these other like the Dolphins. Like, they need a few more weapons there offensively. You have Tariq Cohen, you have David Montgomery at the back spot, but you need some more weapons around the quarterback, whether it's Dalton, Wilson, draft player. They need some more weapons offensively. And with the Packers, Aaron Jones, like Nate was saying, much needed signing. Of course, there were those rumors of him maybe going to the Dolphins or elsewhere, but it was key that he needed to stay in Lambeau to help balance that attack moving forward.
Yes, and speaking of franchise tag, Chris Godwin also franchise tagged as well. Jameis Winston re-signing with the Saints. He's looking like their number one guy. We'll see what happens there. But finally, I wanna cover the biggest move of the offseason. J.J. Watt going to the Cardinals for 2 years, $31 million. Guys, we discussed this. We thought, for sure he's gonna go to the Packers or the Browns or the Bills, somewhere where he could make a run for the championship. But it goes to the Cardinals. And I think I know why, but I'd like to hear what you think about this move.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, Justin, as to your reasoning. And yes, the money was nice in that deal for J.J. Watt. But, the Cardinals, you might not see them as a win-now team, but they have potential. They have DeAndre Hopkins. They have Kyler Murray, who I do believe is on the up and coming. I think he'll have a good year this year. And J.J. Watt, really, that defense is going to be decent for the Cardinals, I believe. With Jones and J.J. Watt now on either end of that defensive line, that's dangerous for offenses coming into Arizona and playing. So I can see, why we thought he'd go other places. I don't think Arizona is his best chance to win a championship by any means, but maybe he sees it differently. Maybe, he sees a team that, hey, a couple years, they could be there.
Yeah, I think, you need to Photoshop the picture of J.J. Watt maybe in DeAndre Hopkins' place for the Hail Mary. Going with the Cardinals over the Bills, making Justin a bit salty over there. But I think it's a good spot. The Cardinals are a good team. They're going to be an underrated team in a good division, of course. But they're on the rise. You have the Seahawks with whatever mess they're going on with Russell Wilson, that kind of what's going on there. Rams are going to be good, as we kind of touched on previously with Matthew Stafford and that new team that they have there. But the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, they have DeAndre Hopkins, the Arizona Texans, I guess now, with J.J. Watt coming in. They have a decent defense. Maybe Watt can accelerate that. They signed Malcolm Butler recently as well to fill in for Peterson, who left for free agency to the Vikings. So I think they still have a decent defense. That offense can still build, but the Cardinals are on the way up.
I think it was a good move for the Cardinals, of course, because they got a great guy in the line. And for them, it's going to really improve that defense, solidify it, and, maybe more work on the offense, and they'll be there. But I just don't think that within the next 2 years they'll be in a position to make a push for the championship. And that's why I don't really know why he would sign there. I guess I just have different values. If I was a player, I think I want at least one ring for the end of my season. Not saying that they can't get there, but I just don't know.
So they sign with the Bills then?
No, I'm saying they could have signed with the Packers. That was one that I really thought they could do. That was one of my top ones for them. I thought that the Packers would be a great fit. Aaron Rodgers on the other side of that ball. It would have been a great team for him to go to for the end of his career. But I don't know. I guess he had other things in mind, and $23 million guaranteed is not half bad, if you ask me.
No, not bad at all. And Justin, I don't want to one-up you here, but I have to ask Jake about this as an Eagles fan. How he feels about Wentz going to the Colts and what he thinks the prospects of that is.
Oh man, Wentz going to the Colts. I think it's a good move. It's a low risk, high reward move for the Colts. You bring Wentz to his former offensive coordinator Frank Reich, and they gave up a few picks. They gave up a second and a third, a second that can become a first if he plays a certain amount of games. It is what it is. He had a bad year for the Eagles, and to put it lightly, and he goes to the Colts, new environment, new offensive coordinator, one of the best offensive lines in the league. So I think he's going to play better, and I'm going to be shaking my fist when he's scoring touchdowns for the Colts in frustration and excitement for him because he's succeeding outside of Philadelphia, a now bottom of the league team.
Yes, very unfortunate for that Philadelphia team. Hopefully they can bring it up in the drafts, as we will see coming up soon.
That should do it for the NFL. Nate, what do you got in the NHL? The season is coming to a close quickly. Who's on top and who is struggling?
That it is, Jake. The season is winding down. We're in the back half now. And as we look to the standings in the Central Division, we do see the reigning defending champions, Tampa Bay Lightning, on top with 54 points. Having another great year, as we basically knew they would. Vasilevsky playing like the top goaltender in the NHL, playing terrific. Hedman, arguably the best defender in the NHL. He's consistently been there, and they're just having a great year. Surprisingly, though, behind them, and actually tied on points currently are the Florida Panthers, both teams being on 54. And, nobody really thought Florida would be as high as they are in this Central Division, but they're having quite a good year. They're on a win streak of 5 games right now. I'm honestly shocked. I did not expect to see this Florida team here, but kudos to them for putting on a great year and playing the way they have been. And then to round out the top 4 in the Central, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, again, having a great year themselves on 51 points. And then the Nashville Predators, who are currently on 41 points and in 4th place. And again, in this current season of the NHL, the top 4 teams from each division will make the playoffs. And then moving on to the East Division, we have the Capitals on top with 52, but tied with the Islanders currently, who are on 52 as well. Both teams having terrific years, I think, as we all would have expected. The Islanders making it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. The Capitals, a couple years removed from winning the Cup. They still got Ovi, Carlson, Backstrom, that core group of players. So we all would have expected them to be putting on a good show this year. We have the Penguins, a bit of a surprise potentially, considering some of their players like Malkin and Crosby are getting up there in age, and the goaltender situation. But they're having a good year, I must admit, as it pains me as a Flyers fan. They are having a good year. They're on 50 points in 3rd place. 4th place, we have the Bruins in 43. And sadly, the Flyers 5th and 39 on 39 points right now. It's not looking so great. As me and Jake were talking before the podcast, just lost in a shootout tonight to the Islanders. Carter Hart not having a great year. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and it can still make a late season push for a playoff spot. They're there, but we'll see what happens in regards to that.
I think one team before you, I guess, kind of move on to the rest of the East is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, I know we talked previously on the podcast, Patrick Laine moved to the Blue Jackets. I personally thought they would be a top 4 team in the Central Division. I mean, they are second to last in that division, only sitting at 36 points and 17 losses. I'm just surprised. Of course, we mentioned the Flyers and how bad they were, and how we thought that they were going to be great in that very tough East Division, but the Blue Jackets, I thought they were going to be way better than they've been so far this year.
Yeah, Jake, I agree with you to some aspects there. The trade for Patrick Laine, I felt was a good trade personally. He wasn't happy in Winnipeg. Dubois wasn't, or however you say his name, wasn't happy in Columbus. Obviously, he was benched. The trade made sense, but honestly, it just hasn't really been working out for Columbus this year. The defense had struggles, goaltending struggles, offensive struggles. They're on a goal differential of negative 28 right now. I think that tells you, the story. Basically, it's just not been what I feel like Columbus fans would have expected, especially with the Laine trade that occurred mid-season. So probably a little bit disappointing for them. And similarly for the Flyers, disappointing, as we've talked about. Carter Hart having his struggles this year. But as we move on to the West, we'll see, again, some familiar teams who a lot of people would have pegged to be in the finals, in the playoffs. The Avalanche currently sit at the top on 52 points. Right below them are the Vegas Golden Knights on 50 points. The Minnesota Wild, who, a little bit of a dark horse. They've been playing really well recently. They're on 46 points in 3rd place. They got a nice rookie, Kaprizov. He's having a great year. He's my rookie of the year personally at this moment in time. I think a lot of, hockey fans would agree. He's had a great season. Not necessarily expected, but, it's good. It's good. Nice to see the Wild up there. And then in 4th, it's been a battle between the Blues and Coyotes. Currently, the Coyotes in 4th place on 39 points, but it's very tight. You got the Blues on 38, the Sharks on 36, Kings on 34. So that'll be a quite contested spot there in the West Division.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be very interesting how these races for that 4th place in the division thin out for the West, as you mentioned, and other divisions as well. Yeah, the Wild. I mean, Kaprizov, he is going to be the rookie of the year again, in my opinion. Your opinion has said a lot of hockey fans across the world, and they've missed Zach Parise, a captain of theirs, for a period of time with COVID, and I mean that's been in play for a lot of these teams, guys in and out of the lineup with COVID, cancellations for a few teams. So yeah, the races are going to be very tight for these teams coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and then moving on to the North Division, the All-Canadian Division, on the top, consistently for the most part of this year, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Of course, they have the leading goal scorer in the NHL, Austin Matthews, having a terrific year. Mitch Marner also having a great year. That line for Toronto has really been getting it done. And mainly the reason I'd say they're in first place in the North Division at the moment. Right below them, we have the Edmonton Oilers, 47 points. Again, they're having a decent year. Obviously, when you have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid on your team, in my opinion, two of the top three guys in the NHL, you're always going to be in play. And they've had their struggles the past few years, but in this All-Canadian division, I feel like this is a good chance for that team to get into the playoffs and make a push, potentially for a Western Conference Finals berth. And then we see in third the Jets, Winnipeg. As we mentioned, the trade, they got rid of Laine, their main guy. But they're doing all right, It hasn't really hurt them that much. They're on 47 points, so tied with Edmonton currently. They've gotten some great goaltending play. Defense and offense has been playing well. So I do like where Winnipeg's sitting. And then, again, we have in the fourth spot currently the Montreal Canadiens, who did sit a bit higher, but recently did have COVID issues, so they are a few games behind the other teams. They're on 41 points. Again, they've got 4 less games played, though, than 2 of the teams in front of them, and 3 less than Toronto. So they could make that ground up and potentially move up higher in the standings. We shall see. And then, just the Canucks, Flames, and Senators down towards the bottom. They've been shuffling kind of the Flames and Canucks. Not a great year for either team. And I personally thought Vancouver, after the year they had last year, would be in a much better spot this year. Just hasn't worked out for them the way they would have wished. Demko's still a good goaltender. They brought in Holtby. He's not really having a great year as a second tendy. The offense just isn't clicking in Vancouver, and you can just see it in the standings.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting, just kind of looking at the division as a whole. You have these different teams from different sides of Canada, like you have the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are, of course, formerly in that kind of Atlantic, the Eastern Conference, and you mix in teams like Calgary and Ottawa and Vancouver, who were typically on the Western Conference, and having them stacked in the same. So it'll be, of course, definitely interesting how those pan out, Edmonton and Winnipeg, as we close out the season into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it definitely makes for some good rivalry games up there in Canada. As you know, get some nice heated rivalries going up. Gotta love those scrums and fights that you see up there between those teams. But yeah, at this point in the season, it's looking like some of the favorites, like the Avalanche, like the Capitals and Islanders, are there, and some unexpected teams, as we said, like the Wild or like Pittsburgh, could make a run. So we shall see.
That should wrap things up for today's episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Thank you for listening. You can find future episodes and streams for the podcast right here on YouTube. Thank you all for listening.